Hi there. You know, something strange happened to my trusty cast iron wok last week. This wok is one of my most used and most prized cast iron pieces, as it was the very first cast iron pan I'd purchased for my own use in January of 2011. I've used it faithfully for the past 7 years and built up a lot of seasoning on it. This year, the seasoning began flaking off, and it was time to strip the pan down completely and season it from scratch. So, after a week of soaking in the lye tank, it was re-seasoned and as good as new, but then something happened. I looked in the pan and saw this. The sweet spot at the center of the wok was still discolored, yet a very familiar shape had somehow appeared in it. I'm sure someone with a knowledge of metallurgy could explain this, and it probably has to do with heating the stress points of the wok over the past several years. Now, the burner on my stove isn't shaped like this at all, which is one reason why this is so surprising. So, I'm happy to simply call this a very interesting coincidence. And this is an excuse to use this wok and make one of the very first recipes I cooked myself. Back in my old world, I would have told you I couldn't cook to save my life. I did enjoy cooking, but I didn't make very many attempts at trying something new. One of our favorite dishes back then was a disgusting pile of ramen noodles, corned beef hash, and canned spinach drowned in half a ton of cheddar cheese. After I began experimenting with cooking, and I'd acquired this wok, this recipe changed to something much more appealing and, I hope, more delicious. It's a bubble and squeak type of recipe using corned beef hash and fresh spinach rather than canned. This is also my first time using this treasure, an oriental chan that I'd found last fall at Brimfield. It soaked in the lye tank all winter and finally cleaned up this spring. This feels really good in my hand, and it's much lighter and thinner than a typical wok turner. This is going to be a lot of fun to use, and that, of course, is the whole idea here.
This is a fast and easy stir fry that you can make when you come home tired from work, and it only takes about 30 minutes from beginning to end. This includes heating the wok in advance while we chop up a few ingredients. This is nothing more than cutting up a couple of potatoes into very thin slices, slicing mushrooms, and mincing 3 cloves of garlic. I'm not a fan of drowning my food in spices, as I prefer the taste of the food itself to come through. Once the wok is good and hot, we add some oil and begin by stir-frying the potatoes for several minutes until they begin to soften. Most wok recipes say to add the garlic at the very beginning, but the wok is so hot that this would instantly cook and burn the garlic. So we add the garlic after several minutes, along with some salt, pepper, and any other spices you may want. When the potatoes are soft, we then add a can of corned beef hash.
Doesn't that look appetizing? Dog food, anyone?
And we stir it all together to get the hash nice and hot. The potatoes actually soften much more here than in most of my other stir fries. I think this is because we used russet potatoes this time. Here we add about 8 to 10 ounces of fresh spinach. They say beans are the magical fruit, but it seems spinach is the magical vegetable, as all of this spinach shrinks very quickly as it cooks.
And voila! What I especially like is how the taste of the spinach blends in with the hash. And finally, the mushrooms.
Then, all we have to do is stir the mushrooms until they're cooked, and our chaos hash is ready to serve. Usually corned beef hash is served with a fried egg on top, but I find this combination of spinach and hash goes good with crumbled feta cheese, or even sour cream or Greek yogurt.
It's one of my favorite stir fries, and I often make it as breakfast for guests who come to visit. I love cooking in the wok, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Oh, and the star of chaos is still there, though after the wok was cleaned up from cooking, the seasoning has already begun covering it up. It'll still be there, even if no one can see it, but I'll know, and now you know, that this is a special wok with a bit of magic hidden underneath the surface. Thank you for watching.